Hello and welcome to my little city homestead. Today I will be making and canning my own tomato sauce. These tomatoes I grew in my garden over the summer and I've been keeping in my freezer so I can make the tomato sauce when the weather was a little bit cooler. This is my first time using my LEM. This is a meat grinder that has a juicing attachment, and you can see I'm putting it together here for the first time. I'll be using this juicer to remove the skin and the seeds from the sauce. As the tomatoes continue to thaw, I am in the process of setting up my workstation, and I kind of notice that the spout for the juice and the output of the seed and skin are too close to each other, and I'm kind of struggling to figure out the best way to set everything up. So the problem is the juice comes out of here and the pulp comes out of here. Like, they're so close to each other. And this is too close to here to get anything under here. Okay, so the solution is to make a chute out of popcorn bag. To my LEM owners, what do you do in this situation? Do you, I know I could use a smaller bowl, but the point is that we're processing something in bulk. So to switch out tiny cups of pulp and sauce doesn't make sense to me. Is there a container that makes sense for the setup that I'm missing? Let me know in the comments if you have a better idea. Ah! Oh no, I split the bag. There really aren't many directions that come with this item. The owner's manual doesn't really have anything helpful. So if there's wisdom out there, I am all open to it. Let me know what you do. Clearly, I am a newbie and have no idea what I'm doing. And there you have it. This is my final setup for my juicing process. The tomatoes did cook down a little bit more than I thought that they would, so we'll see how this goes. The LEM is pretty loud, so I have most of this audio muted just because it is extremely loud. But here we go. An apron. Armed and ready with my apron, I am really able to get in here and continue processing these tomatoes. As you saw, the little chute is working to keep the pulp out of my juice. The more I process these tomatoes, the more I realize that I probably should have done them when they were still a little frozen or just when they were fresh, because they seem to be too watery for the auger to push the tomatoes through the expeller. At one point, I did have some tomato juice backing up into the gearbox of the grinder. I do think that that is because they were too soft. I had to stop and deal with that and clean up the machine a little bit. So next time I will definitely do them when they are more firm. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the pulp and reprocess that to get every bit of flesh and juice out of the skin. At this point, I had processed most of the larger bits through the juicer, and now I'm going to take what remains in the pan and filter it through a fine mesh sieve and take out any seeds that are left. Now that all of the seeds and skin have been removed, I'm going to take the juice and put it back into my roasting pan and let it roast for a few hours to help reduce the liquid. One of the recipes that I was looking at for this project suggested using tomato paste to help thicken the sauce. Here I am referencing the all-new Ball book of canning and preserving for the remainder of my recipe and the canning process. As you can see, I am making good progress here cooking down the sauce. You can see it's down probably about an inch from where it was previously. I'm going to give it a good stir and make sure that nothing's sticking to the bottom. Now I'm going to start adding my seasonings. Here I am adding 2 tablespoons of onion powder, followed by 2 tablespoons of garlic powder. Next, I am adding 2 tablespoons of freeze-dried basil, followed by the remainder of the oregano in this grinder I have here. Now I am adding a good amount of salt and pepper to taste, followed by a little bit of sugar. Now I'm going to give it all a really good stir, making sure that all the ingredients get mixed in well. I continue to let it cook down, giving it a good stir every now and then just to make sure everything's cooking down well. I'm going to taste it here just to see how the spices have balanced out, and I decided to add some thyme. I'm going to make sure to mix that in well and let that cook down for a little bit longer so that that thyme can rehydrate and blend well. Once I'm happy with the seasonings, I will let that sit and cook down some more while I prepare the canner and my canning supplies. Here I am preheating some jars and letting that boil, counting them out, making sure I have enough lids. I'm going to put the lids in a small pot of their own and heat those as well. So I'm cleaning up as I go while I gather all of my supplies. I'm getting my vinegar and my citric acid, and of course on big project days like these you need some high protein snacks. So I'm snacking on some pretzels and some chicken salad. Once my jars have boiled long enough, I will bring in my tomato sauce and then prepare to fill my jars. With these only being pint jars, I plan on leaving them in the rack like this with some warm water in them to keep them at temperature, and I will just fill them one at a time. I add the appropriate amount of sauce to each jar, leaving the right amount of headspace, and I will also be adding citric acid to each jar just to make sure we are at the appropriate acid level. Unfortunately, my camera stopped recording at this point, so you'll just have to see the second round. So after processing the jars of tomato sauce for the appropriate amount of time designated by my recipe, I let it sit in the rack like this with the heat off for about 5 minutes before I took them out and put them on my cooling rack. And now that batch number 1 is out of the canner, I can go ahead and start prepping for batch number 2. I can heat up some jars, bring those to a boil, and once they're ready, start preparing to add the sauce to the jars. I'm going to go ahead and empty each jar, processing them one at a time. I will put the citric acid in, add the sauce to the appropriate amount of headspace, debubble, clean the rim, and then add the lid and fingertip tighten. I'm going to repeat this process over and over again until all of the tomato sauce has found a home in a jar. I'm really excited to make this sauce and to have it on hand in my pantry. Usually when we get tomato sauce or pasta sauce from the store, there's always a bunch left over and it goes to waste. I like these smaller jars because I feel like they'd be more appropriate for the types of meal sizes that we make. I chose to make sauce that's a little bit thinner as it goes into the canner. That way later on I can make it thicker by cooking it down or keep it thinner for other types of recipes. I'm just topping off the water here in the water bath canner to make sure that the water level doesn't drop below the cans during the canning process. As the cans boil, I'm going to clean up my workstation because tomato sauce is pretty messy, and then we'll see how everything turns out. Tomato products are a great place to start if you are new to canning. They're relatively simple because they're water bath canned, and generally they are acidic enough on their own. It's always good practice to add citric acid or lemon juice just to be sure. And if you're wondering why my jars in the background are separating, that happens sometimes with tomatoes. You'll see like a clearer liquid on the bottom and then your sauce on top. Just give it a good shake and everything will be good as new. Drop by the comment section and say hello, then let me know what kind of tomato products you like to can.